lovely humans, and welcome back to my channel. If you are watching this on Facebook or on Wedding Chick's website, thank you so much for stopping by. Today we are going to talk about one of the biggest mistakes I made as a bride, and hopefully, because I'm going to share a little bit of my stupidity with you and the lessons that I learned through that, it can save you from making those same mistakes while still staying within budget and not ending up with a colossal headache. So, story time. When we were getting married, we had $8,000 to work with, which if you are in the throes of wedding planning, you know that that is not a lot of money. I had to get extremely creative when it came to pulling this off, but I didn't want to sacrifice certain things when it came to my event. Basically, I wanted to have my cake and eat it too. And one of the ways that I became pretty cost effective was by purchasing linens. If you watched the video last week, then you know that the average cost of a linen rental is about $18. If you haven't watched that video, I will link that down below. But when you're trying to invite 150 people to a wedding and you're thinking about spending almost $20 on one linen for each table, you get a little crazy. So I jumped online, did some research, and thought maybe I could buy them instead of renting them. And I found them, the same exact linens, for $8 a piece. $8? $18. That seemed like a no-brainer to me. Let's save 150 bucks and let's buy them ourselves, and then I will rent them afterwards or sell them to another bride. Sounds about right, right? Wrong! They were not the same linens as the ones from the rental company because the wrinkle-free linens showed up covered in wrinkles. Because I didn't want to pay for dry cleaning for each and every one of those, because that was $12 a tablecloth, which then would have defeated the purpose of buying them myself, I thought, okay, I'm gonna wash them and dry them myself, that'll get the wrinkles out. We proceeded to iron each and every one of them. Each tablecloth took 45 minutes to an hour to iron. And then we had to figure out how to fold it, which is a nightmare in and of itself. I think they were 132 inches, right? 132 inch rounds onto a hanger was, oh guys, it was so frustrating. So after spending so much time washing and drying and ironing and folding, I then had to find a spot to put them up in my house. I have a lot of clothes. I didn't think this through. This is a lot of time that I'm spending trying to make these tablecloths work, and my head hurts. Is this worth $150? It's starting to feel like it wasn't. And then, setting them up and tearing them down, we relied on volunteers, which so many people do. Big shout out to you, Daddy-O. Thanks for handling all that mess. Sorry. But my plan for selling them or renting them afterwards kind of fell apart really, really quickly because no one was going to buy them in their current state because they're wrinkled and people had spilled wine on them and I had to wash them and dry them and then re-iron them before someone would buy them. No thanks. So they spent 2 years in my garage until I finally got so fed up. Well, let's be clear, my husband got so fed up that he made me get rid of them. So what is the point of that story, you ask? Let's talk about the dangers of buying versus renting items for your wedding day. Obviously, when I was doing this, all I looked at were the pros of buying and the cons of renting, but I didn't take the time to think through the other side of that, and that was the cons of buying and the pros of renting. Most people buy items for their wedding because it's cheaper, you can have it be more custom, and you can sell it afterwards and recoup some of the money that you spent. When you rent items, it is more expensive. They tend to be a little bit more generic, and there is no return on your investment. Once you spend the money on the linens, you will never see that money again. When you look at it like that, it makes a whole lot more sense to buy the items than it does to rent the items. But what I learned the hard way was that when you buy items, it is very, very time consuming. Not only do you have to spend the time researching those items, then you have to order them, wait for shipping, clean them, prep them, and organize them for your wedding day. When you rent, that's not a problem. You pick them out of a book and then they show up on your wedding day. So that's not beautiful? Hassle-free, no 45 minutes of ironing, in your face, just there. Great. You also have to worry about space. How are they going to be stored both before and after your event, and how are they going to be transported? You have to think through all those details that you wouldn't have to think through if you just rented it. Buying it yourself means a ton of administrative work. Writing a list of those items for whoever is handling your setup and tear down, finding someone to do setup and tear down. When you go with a rental company, they have a crew in place to do all of those items for you. When you do it yourself, you don't have anyone to do that. What we're seeing here is this comparison basically of you either spend the time and the energy and the sweat equity, or you spend the money. Now, I don't want to be a hypocrite here. We only had $8 grand to work with. So this one's for my budget brides out there who say, yeah, but I still have to buy it because every $150 counts. I have time, I don't have money. So what now? Have a plan, specifically for what you're gonna buy. I went hog wild when I bought stuff for my wedding. Like vintage lace table squares. What am I gonna do with those? It was the most ridiculous purchase ever because I didn't organize beforehand and I didn't have a plan for what I wanted to buy, so I just started buying stuff and spent way too much money on crap that I'm never ever going to use. Have a plan for who is going to set up and tear down and transport those items for you. Also, have a resale plan in place. Don't be like me and keep them in your garage for 2 years. That was stupid. Buy used. So like if you buy something full price, brand new, you can't sell it at a brand new price. You have to sell it at a lower price. But if you buy it at a used price, you could probably get away with reselling it at that same used price. Buy small. And I don't mean like the amount of product, although don't buy too many things. I mean the actual size of the items because it's easier to keep track of and organize and transport and set up and tear down. And lastly, buy things that are non-generic or can be repurposed in your home. For our wedding, instead of renting like a traditional white aisle, I bought a like 18-foot Persian style rug, really long, really narrow for me to walk down, and now it is downstairs in our hallway, which I think is kind of ridiculously cool. But it is non-generic and it's not something that I could have easily found at a rental place, so it made sense for me to buy that. I compiled a list of things that I think are great items to purchase. Small items, easy to transport. Votives, I know that I use votives in my home all the time. I like that ambient lighting, so that was a good purchase for me because I've repurposed those. Vases are another great item that you can buy as long as you get them to your florist ahead of time. It could potentially be cheaper than renting them from her, and that's an easy thing to resell afterwards if you plan on doing so. Table numbers and napkins. Most likely you can find some pretty inexpensive table numbers, especially if they're used. And napkins, those don't take up too much space. They're a lot less obnoxious than tablecloths are. It can be really tempting to buy everything for your event because it looks cheaper on paper. Buying is not always better than renting. You either spend the time making it happen or you spend the money making it happen. Is this worth $150? And that's all we have for today, folks. Thank you so much for stopping by, checking out my channel. If you haven't done so already, like this video. Cause why not? Subscribe to this channel for more tips and tricks for the modern day bride. And as always, huge shout out to my gal pals over at weddingchicks.com for hosting this video. If you are watching this through their site or through Facebook, jump on over to YouTube, search my name, subscribe to this channel. We're putting out new videos every single week, which is super exciting. So until next week, bye guys. I feel like, I just got transported from the 1970s. I feel like that's a fair statement to make. With the high waist, the oversized cardigan, and the hard center part.